Hi, everybody. Welcome or welcome back to my garden. My name is Vanessa, and I turn our yard into our own little happy place at home here in Zone 7B, Virginia. And I like to give you whatever tools I have to help you do the same. Today, I want to share with you our outdoor Christmas decoration. We love decorating the outside. We love doing the inside as well, but we love decorating the outside because it helps to spread the cheer. I have to tell you a story. 6 years ago, about now, we had to spend time at the hospital with a loved one during the Christmas season. And my husband and I love Christmas. And one of the things we did long before we had kids was go look at Christmas lights around the holiday season. And so we were looking forward to doing that at this other town where this hospital was. It was far from home. And so we set out around Christmas time at nighttime to go look at the Christmas lights. And we were going to take video and bring it back to our little loved one so that they could enjoy the lights as well. And it was so sad. There were barely any lights in that town. There was one gentleman that we had asked our favorite nurse if she knew of any houses because just driving around alone, we weren't getting anywhere, finding anything. I mean, we must have driven night after night for multiple hours in a row, just hoping that we would find these wonderful houses full of lights. And there was no such thing. And so we'd asked her if she knew of anything. And she had told us about one gentleman that she knew about who had done a little bit of a light display. And we went and found his house. And indeed, it wasn't anything extravagant, but it was still nice and definitely contributed to that cheer, especially after a moment of just feeling like we were in a desert as far as Christmas lights were concerned. And so now, every time we put up our Christmas decorations, we do tend to think of that time and that perhaps we too are spreading some Christmas cheer because you never know. And so today I want to share with you just a few things that we do to add some charm and some cheer to our house. So for us, we normally do three things. We normally decorate the outside of the house by outlining it. We tend to decorate some of the trees in the yard because that helps to make an impact and it's not that time consuming. And three, we put up a few yard decorations. And I guess four, you could say that I also try to do something with the front doors, but I include that in yard decorations. So to decorate the outline of our house or to put up the trees in general, it all starts just about a few days before we start decorating because we bring in the storage bin that we stored all the lights from the year before. We have this big blue storage bin that we bring inside and we make it fun. The kids love it. I usually put on a pot of hot cocoa. My husband turns on Christmas music and the kids love just going through the lights to see if any of them have gone bad from the year before. Because, once they've been in storage for a while, things happen. They don't make lights like they used to anymore. And almost always, multiple strands of them will have lost some light. And so we'll either attempt to replace whatever bulb is broken or not working to fix the light string, but oftentimes we just ditch it all together and just start with a whole new string. We typically buy extra lights at the end of the Christmas season. We'll go to some of these box stores and get extra lights and put them in storage because it's a lot cheaper that way. And almost always we will need it when it's time to decorate the following year. When we're ready to decorate the following day, it's a whole family adventure. We outline the perimeter of the house. We do the house in colored lights and we do the trees and all the other yard decorations in white lights. This was my influence. I try not to have a ton of influence when it comes to decorating the outdoor of the house for Christmas because my husband just loves that and has taken it on and he does such a good job. However, as you can tell, I'm passionate about design, which is the main thing we talk about here on this channel, which is about how to design the yard so that it could be your own little happy place and oasis as far as gardens. And so I really wanted to create some distinction between the house and the yard decoration because I didn't want it to look so mismatchy. And so I advocated that we would do colored lights on the house and a white lights for everything else, and that works out. So everybody tends to know their job. My husband outlines the roof and he outlines the chimney. Essentially, he gets on the roof and does the gutters, the chimney, and the roof line. And I tend to do the windows, at least the ones that are easier for me to reach. But now that we have two little kids, generally we take turns even doing the windows because somebody has to watch one of the kids. We outline every single window that we possibly can, especially in the front of the house. We don't do the back of the house, although this year we were putting some effort into decorating the back of the house because since I've created gardens all over the yard, we spend a lot of time back here as well, even in the evenings. And so we've started to move some of the decoration towards the back of the house as well. I imagine next year we'll do a whole lot more. But this year, we made sure to outline all of the windows in the front of the house because when it's dark, we want it to look as much like a gingerbread house as possible with all the cutouts of the windows and the doors. To attach the lights to the windows, we either use those universal clips that you could use for gutters or windows, or we use tacks, like tacks that you would use in an office. We have some wooden window trim. And so we typically tend to reuse the same holes and just push it between the wires for the lights because you know it's coated and we attach it that way. And generally to fix whatever miniature hole we would have put in the trim, in the springtime I usually go back and I fill in everything and I give the trim a paint job anyway just to keep it looking nice. And so because of that, we're not that worried about putting a few little holes here and there in the trim using a tack. So we've been doing the outlining of our little house since we were first married. However, some years into it, we decided that it would be fun to start incorporating some of the trees in it. Now, we've lost so many trees over the years on our property. There's might be some weird fungal disease going on here that specifically affects trees. I know it sounds crazy, but we don't know how else to explain the loss of so many trees had here. So my point is that we used to have a lot more trees to decorate, and I've since replaced some of the ones we've lost. So some of them aren't saplings anymore and are just like a perfect size where we could easily decorate them. And so what we tend to do is we usually employ one or two methods or both. But the first method is that if the tree still has its leaves on its canopy, we just go around and keep going in a circular motion up the tree. A perfect example of this is a birch tree that we have in the front of the house. It doesn't lose its leaves generally until way late into the season. And so it's just not worth it to attempt to do every individual branch. However, on the trees that have by now lost their leaves, it's very fun and worth it to do the lights by doing individual branches. It looks quite stunning in the dark, and I'm sure you've seen this and you probably think it's the most difficult thing. It's not so difficult. It is difficult if you don't know what you're doing, but you know, the internet is full of resources, and just this time when we were doing it, I was able to find a method that I thought worked beautifully. In fact, my husband was commenting on how well it worked, and so I'm going to show you how to do this right now. Let me demonstrate how to put lights on the trunk and the branches of a tree on this tree because we've already done our other ones, and so I can't show you. And so as you can see here, I've already been going up the trunk of the tree with these lights by winding it around the trunk, something like every 4 inches. And so I'm going to continue here with another one. Yeah, they're about every 4 inches. And at this point, I need to start branching the lights into the trees. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this one is, and I'm going to go up it. But instead of every 4 inches, I'm going to allow a much bigger distance between the lights. It's going to be more like 8 inches. You need to double it. And this is because you're going to bring the lights back down in the in-between space that you left so that your distance is still every 4 inches. And then you're going to come back in the in-between. Lights get so tangled up. If anybody has a tip for that, that would be great. All right, so now our lights are every 4 inches. Now that we've come down, we're going to continue up this branch. We're going to do the same thing. Instead of going every 4 inches, we're going to widen our gap, and then we're going to come back in the gap. We have a little fat Albert blue spruce that's shaped like the perfect little Christmas tree in the front yard as well. And so it just screams that it needs to have Christmas lights. And so I put Christmas lights on it. But one tip about that is to encourage you to not go in a circular motion as you put lights on it, because in the darkness, it's going to look just like that. However, if you're looking for maximum twinkle, it's best if you go in like an S-shaped pattern as you go up and down the tree. Honestly, just go in random S's as you go up and down the tree, and you'll be surprised by how much sparkle it adds to the tree. It will make it look as if the whole tree is illuminating. I do recommend you use lights that have the green strings, because then it will just blend in with the leaves of the tree in the daytime. It won't look like the hot mess that it actually looks like, because you would have just gone into in random S's. I hope that makes sense. And the last thing we do is we add a few yard decorations. Now, we are Christians, and for us, while we love bringing cheer to our neighbors for Christmas, we very much want to be jubilant about the celebration of the birth of Christ. And so for us, we have a vintage nativity that my mother in law gave us some years ago, a yard nativity. We put that up. Now, it's not up yet because we like to put it up closer to Thanksgiving because we worry about it fading, but we will soon put it up and we'll put a spotlight on it, and it will be the main attraction as far as we're concerned, as far as yard decorations. Aside from it, we have a joy sign to continue with the jubilant theme that my husband cut out from some cardboard some years ago. And this year, I went ahead and added some lights to the outskirts of it so that it would show up in the darkness as well. And that's worked out very nicely. I'm surprised I hadn't done it sooner. And lastly, we have some little deer that we picked up at the thrift store years ago that we have been putting out every year. And the kids love it. They love playing with it. They love saying, little deer, little deer. And so that's fun. And we add those yard decorations as well. And then lastly, I try to pay some special attention to my front door on the years when we're busy and only have time to do the outline of the house and not any of the trees or hardly any yard decorations aside from the nativity. I try to pay some special attention to the front door. And on those years, I might add some garland or I might add a lighted wreath. But the dilemma I run into with something like a wreath is that we have a storm door, and I always want to put the decoration on the actual door, not the storm door, because actual doors open to the inside. And when the door is open, I like to see whatever decoration is on the door from the inside of the house. However, if I do that, the space between the two doors is just too narrow for any of the typical wreaths. This year, I decided to go with 4 stockings because there are 4 of us. I picked up these stockings at the end of the season last year at a thrift store, and I was going to use them on our mantle, but our mantle is brick. And despite it being a lighter brick, it would have clashed with the pattern and color of these stockings. And so I had planned of just ditching them altogether as far as their use for this year. But then it occurred to me that they would look very beautiful on the black door. And so I hung them on the black door, and I've been very, very pleased with them. And I probably will be repeating this in years to come. As for the back door, I have a similar problem. I have storm door, I have main door, and I want to be able to see the decoration on the door whenever I'm inside the house and the door is open. And so, because of that, I wanted something else that would fit between the doors. I was at the thrift store recently and I just found this wreath that I decided to hang here. It's a narrow wreath and its construction is interesting. I thought I would tell you about it. So, all this is a foam wreath that you can get at any craft store, and whoever made this just got ribbon and just kind of wound the ribbon all over the wreath and attached it with a pin whenever they got to the end. For the bow, they just employed this method that I'm showing you here, where it's possible to just see the front side of the ribbon all the time and attach that using some twine or wire or whatever you want to the wreath. And I thought it was super simple and super easy and quite beautiful. And so it's definitely back here. The main thing we normally talk about in this channel is how to take your backyard and turn it into something lovely that is your happy little oasis at home. If you're interested about learning any of that stuff, I recommend you watch any of these videos, or I'll share another tip with you for how to do that. Thanks so much for being here. Have a good day.